Welcome to the Love Your Brain podcast, the podcast designed for everyday people who are ready to hop off the negative thought hamster wheel and enjoy a less hostile environment in their own brains. Our brains are where we live our entire lives, and I'm on a mission to help people see that they have everything they need to make it a happier place to be. So join us for this episode of the Love Your Brain podcast. Let's get started. This is a trigger warning. We are going to be talking about pregnancy, miscarriage, and also psychics, if you didn't tell by the title. So, just a trigger warning. If any of those things are a trigger for you, probably pass this one up and catch us on the next one. Welcome back to the Love Your Brain podcast, or welcome if you're new. Now, this episode's going to be juicy. I'm really excited about it. And this topic has been itching to come out for a while. On this podcast, we do combine a lot of information about neuroscience, energetics, intuition, and truthfully, sometimes it can feel a little bit strange, bumpy, weird for people to combine science with something like intuition, but they are completely interconnected. And we're going to break some of that down today for you. And I think this topic is so interesting because it just naturally comes up when you're talking to people about these sorts of things. And really, there's so much really good quality information that can help everyone, even if you've never even considered talking to a psychic before. This is going to be information that just helps you to understand how your brain works better, which we all need. So let's just start with the basic information. And that is when you are talking to a psychic, typically what they're using is their own intuition to provide you with information. And intuition is something that every human on this planet has. Every person is born with intuition. Now, for some people, they're born with a really strong talent in that area, or maybe there's someone that grows up in a household that really fosters their intuition, helps it strengthen, or for some people, they're in a household where intuition is not something that's valued. And so it's kind of pushed down, and they could have a different experience as well. So we all live life with a different interaction with our intuition. But typically speaking, I find that a lot of psychics that you work with, like just random ones that you meet here or there, are going to just have maybe a stronger muscle of intuition than maybe your average person. But that doesn't mean they have something that, say, you don't, because they don't. They have intuition just like you have intuition. And again, this is much like any other function of your body. Your intuition is something that can be strengthened by training, by getting more information to help you understand it. It's kind of like when you look at people who are professional athletes. Some of them were born with a talent for that area. Like maybe they were born just really, it was easy for them to learn basketball. But then other professional athletes, like say you look at another professional basketball player, they may have spent a lot of time and energy with coaches to help them get to the same level. So you can see kind of a similar product when they're on the basketball court. They're both performing at a very high level, but one of them maybe had just a lot of natural talent with a little bit of training, and the other one might just have a crap ton of training, but you might not necessarily be able to tell at first glance while they are participating in that sport, unless you kind of looked for some red flags. So, we're going to break that down as it relates to psychics today. So, when we are talking about psychics, they're using their intuition to tap into different energy fields that your brain is putting off. So, as our brains perform different functions and think different thoughts, it affects the energy fields that come off of our brains, and other people can intuit or read that information and translate it basically to give you information about what they're seeing or what they're experiencing when they interact with that field of energy around you and around your brain. Now, here is the really interesting thing about just your average run of the mill psychic that you meet that maybe has not had training is that often they are getting information that is completely accurate. They are reading an energy field and giving you exactly the information that they are getting from that energy field. However, there are often cases where they do not know which energy field they are reading. And what that in turn causes is a little bit of confusion as to what that information means. So, maybe this person is going to a psychic for the first time and they're asking the psychic, am I ever going to have kids? Like maybe they've really wanted kids for a long time and they've tried and they failed many, many times. And they're just going to the psychic because they really would like answers. They're feeling super discouraged and they're asking the psychic, will I have kids one day? And the psychic looks in, uses their intuition to read energy fields, not knowing which energy field they're reading, and they see something that tells them, no, they're not going to have kids. So they tell that person, nope, you're not going to have kids. So sorry. Have a nice day. That person goes along, you know, maybe 10 years down the road. That person goes through an experience where maybe they were able to really shift some things in their life and they get pregnant. And they think back and they're like, man, that psychic was wrong. So let's roll it back here and figure out what went wrong. Now, if this person came to the psychic and they were really, really discouraged, they were just like, man, I try every time to get pregnant. I'm not getting pregnant and I'm failing. They might be very rooted to a belief that they cannot get pregnant. So that would be something that's getting put into what's called your thought field. So that person's thought field is very strongly communicating to anyone that tries to interact with that thought field, I can't get pregnant. And that is coming from the thoughts that she's having in her brain that are emitting those waves to the energy field around her. So, makes sense. The psychic get this really strong ping of she's not going to get pregnant because this person is very, very strongly rooted to this belief that I've tried a million times and it's not working. I'm never going to get pregnant. Okay. If you go to a trained intuitive or something similar, maybe it's a psychic that has had training, really understands this, or has really gone deep on these topics, they can actually separate out the different energy fields. So we have many energy fields. We've got an EMF field. We've got a thought field. We've got a creator field. We have a soul field. There's so many different fields of energy that a person can read and intuit information from. So if this is a trained person looking at all of the different fields going on with this individual coming to them, they might be able to differentiate the fact that the inability to get pregnant is actually just coming from their thoughts. It's not anything more than that. It's just a thought that they're having. And then they can look at a different energy field and be able to read that they might actually be capable of getting pregnant if they just shifted this one thing in that field of energy. So you can see these are very different outcomes, right? Can you imagine, you go and you talk to one psychic and they say, nope, you definitely can't get pregnant. You go to one the next day and they're like, no, you totally can get pregnant. Like that would be super confusing. But that is the differentiation here is that often psychics that became psychics just because they had this natural ease in that area of life where they were like really good at it from maybe a young age and they just went with it and started providing information that they were getting from these energy fields, they may not be giving, let's say, properly translated information simply because they don't actually understand the different energy fields and what the information means when it's in each energy field. As opposed to if you go to someone who's been really trained or was brought up in a way where this was just a part of their, information they gained as they were a child, they're like, these are the energy fields. This is what they do. This is how you read this one. This is how you read that one. It might be easier for that type of psychic or intuitive to be able to tell them, hey, it looks like you're really struggling with this thought that you can't get pregnant, but I can also see that you might have the ability if we shifted X, Y, or Z. So you can see very drastic differences in the type of information you're getting. And I share this simply because I feel like sometimes there's this hard line in the brain world between the very woo-woo and the very scientific. And actually, that line is really a lot more blurry than you would think. Like, there's a lot more connectors from each of those sides. And if we have all of those connectors, it gives such a better picture of the situation. Now, another piece of information that I think is super interesting is that, as I said, all of us have intuition. However, We all also have different emotional levels. Like some people are really emotional and some people aren't very emotional. And some people are really emotionally tied to certain topics and maybe not as emotionally tied to other topics. So that could as well really affect what a psychic might be able to provide someone that's coming to them. So an example of that might be, say this psychic is meeting with that same person who's really been trying to get pregnant. They can't get pregnant and they're feeling really discouraged. And so they're sitting in front of the psychic telling them, I've been really trying to get pregnant, but I can't. Can you look in and see? Am I going to get pregnant one day? But what if that psychic or intuitive had a miscarriage last week? Okay. We're just going to say that as the example. And at that point, you're like a week out from something that traumatic, they're probably experiencing emotions related to pregnancy in general. So that means that they're going into that scenario a little bit more emotionally charged than they probably would typically. And that will 1000% affect how their brain is interpreting the information that they're getting from those energy fields. It's just natural. That's how we work. So if you have a fear about something, it's going to skew the information that you're able to gain from different energy fields. So for example, that person might try and not get their hopes up because they're so afraid they're going to experience the pain that they did recently, right? All of that can very much so affect the kind of information that they're able to gather from the other person and be able to provide accurate information. And the third aspect of this that I want to touch on is also that we all have free will. And something that's really interesting that I found as well is that you can actually gain information from these different energy fields that can give you timelines and different scenarios of how a situation may play out depending on different factors. It's not like we're all sitting here just basically watching a movie play out. We each are deciding factors in how the plot unfolds. So, like I said with that example of that woman, if she decided that she was just going to continue living her life the same way that she always had, maybe those thoughts and those beliefs that she had about not being able to get pregnant would keep her from getting pregnant. But say she encounters some kind of struggle where she decides, I don't want to have those beliefs anymore, and really does the work of reprogramming her brain and reprogramming those neural pathways, the future for her will most definitely look different. So she could very well get pregnant just based off of the fact that she does the hard work of really working on changing her brain and how her brain functions. That can actually affect our physical bodies and the energy fields and all of the things that go into creating new life. So all of these are things that often we don't take into account when we hear these funny little stories about why your psychic might have given you incorrect information, but I think it's so interesting to talk about. I actually really love it when people come to me and they're like, I want to talk to you about my psychic. I'm like, please tell me all about it. My favorite personally are like the pet psychics. I absolutely love them. Um, I just think it's super interesting, partially because I'm obsessed with my dog, but just in general, I think it's very fascinating. And we see them on TV all the time. Like there's tons of different ones out there. But we love to watch these psychics on TV and, hear all this information. And sometimes we don't always understand like how they're getting the information or how reliable the information is. And so I think this is really helpful to have so that you can kind of understand what's going on in the background and maybe be able to look at it with a different set of eyes and be able to kind of determine, I wonder if this person has been trained enough to understand where they're getting the information from, being able to analyze their own emotions enough to know if they're emotionally invested in the information that they're getting and providing, or if they really understand the idea of timelines and how different things can shift the outcome for anyone. I mean, those are all, I think, really cool things to think about when you're watching this take place or when you meet with a psychic yourself. So That is all the tea of the neuroscience and the energetics of psychics. I am really excited to bring you some more cool topics here in the coming months as some of the stuff that I've really been studying deep on lately is unfolding. So definitely make sure you're subscribed if you're not. Make sure you leave a review. I would love that. And share this with someone. Maybe, share it with your neighbor and see what their take is on it, if they've ever been to a psychic or if they may have been given wrong information in the past. Have a great week, guys. I hope you found something helpful here today on the Love Your Brain podcast. Maybe a laugh or a feeling of validation, or maybe just a few moments to have company while you do your laundry. Whatever you take from it, I hope you enjoyed your time and leave feeling empowered to be more you every day. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss out on the next episode, and leave a review. I'd love to hear what you think. Have a great one.